Hello and welcome back to our podcast. This is the Gaily Digest. I'm Nigel.
And I'm Joshua.
Welcome back. We hope you've had a fantastic start to 2025. I know that I have, and have you, Josh?
Yes, I'm all worn out now.
All worn out?
All that social...
All hungover still? Are you still getting through that gin?
Maybe both. But no, my social batteries...
Both bottles?
No comment. My social battery is very much depleted. I'm going to need a while to recharge.
We are back with you with our second episode of the new year. This is going to be a special episode where we're going to be talking about a couple of very important topics that have come up in our community recently. First of which is going to be the conversion therapy and the conversion therapy ban. And we're also going to be talking about the puberty blocker ban, which has hit headlines and caused a lot of, and quite rightly so, a lot of anger and frustration throughout the LGBTQ plus community. So we're going to be talking about those on this episode. But first, we're going to have a very brief news roundup. And so let's crack on with the show.
Let's start with some news, and I have some good news. That Rebel Wilson has married her now wife, Ramona, in Sydney. I bet the weather was lovely.
Weather in Sydney. It would have been bloody hot.
True, I'm not a fan of the heat, am I? Or the cold.
Not that you were invited to the wedding, Joshua.
No, I'm really disappointed. I was expecting my invite and it just didn't arrive.
That would have been a great wedding.
It probably got lost, to be honest. That's what it was.
Yeah, they didn't have your address.
Yeah, I've moved in the last year, so that's what it was. They've just not got my new address.
Oh, you crack me up. But yeah, no, that is some good news. Because she was outed, wasn't she? She was backed into a corner to come out.
Yeah,
wasn't she? Wasn't it someone from media
that
got the story and said that they were going to be releasing the story, which forced her hand to come out?
Yeah, I suppose that's taking the power back off them, isn't it?
It is, but
unfortunate that it had to be done that way. But
yeah, but I mean, because coming out is a very personal thing, isn't it? And it should be on your terms or on the person's terms, not anyone else's. But you know, from that bad news aspect, there some good has come from this, because she's now able to live her life freely as her true authentic self, getting married to the woman that she loves, and now they can share a happy life.
Well, they got the daughter as well.
Exactly.
So she did mention on her socials that she had it in her hometown, the wedding, so her 93-year-old grandma could attend there, which is lovely.
I did read that. Was it 93 or 94? I thought she was
probably
older
94.
I thought she was older than 93,
Yeah.
only by a year. But yeah, I think that's wonderful, because it means that she probably had her dream wedding, to be fair.
Yeah, I agree. But although I would be scared of the spiders in the bouquet and things.
Yeah, that's true.
Because most things in Australia do want to kill you.
But then you're not a fan of spiders anyway, are you?
No.
No, me neither.
Even the tiny ones.
Even the tiny ones. What, even the money spiders?
Yeah, they're too many legs. It's got more than 4 legs. I don't want them.
I've also got some news, which I'm going to share here. And it was, in fact, it's following on from something we mentioned on the last episode, because we talked about Strictly, the Christmas special, about how people were up in arms because there was a drag artist that was featured on it. And I think you said you thought it was Tia Coffey.
I understand why I mixed it up. It's because I was binge watching the UK Drag Race again, and Tia Coffey I'm obsessed with. So, and that's why I got them mixed up again, but it was actually Tace.
Yes, yeah, it was Tace that featured as the first drag artist to appear on Strictly. Sorry, my voice went a bit funny then. I had a bit of a dry throat there. But yes, so it was Tace that was the first drag artist for the Strictly Christmas special, and she went on to win. So I think she faced the adversity and sort of won over that adversity and managed to achieve the winning spot, which I think is a great thing, because it just goes to show that, you get people out there that are up in arms and say really horrible things because they want to cancel you and they
The
want you
thing
to.
is, if you see tastes on Drag Race and stuff, you can see what they want. They literally just pour out talent, like from the looks to the moves to the attitude, the confidence is on a completely another level.
I mean, Tay said, she was quoted as saying that she was proud to be the first drag artist to take part on the series, and that she was taking a stand against those who might criticise the move. And I think that's a good thing. She also said that it was such an honour and a privilege to be pushing the boundaries of the first drag queen on the show because it's been on for so many years. Some people may not agree and think that drag is overtly sexual and not something that should be on primetime television, but there is nothing sexualised about it. Drag has been around for centuries, and whether people like it or not, so I think this may open people's eyes a bit and give them a different view. I think that's perfect. I mean, drag has been around for centuries. I mean, you look at Panto. Drag has been a considerable part of Panto for years, decades. And people never got upset over that because there was someone in drag as Widow Twanky in one of the Pantos. But for some reason now, because of the trans community becoming more vocal about their lives and wanting to live their true, authentic lives and wanting to be accepted over that, but for some reason people seem to make it their goal in life not to let them get on with their lives. And so for people in such public positions like drag artists that are on TV shows, I think that's a good thing because it just shows we are here, we're not going anywhere, we're not a threat to anyone, we're not causing harm to anyone, we're here to entertain you.
It's representation.
Exactly, and you can choose to enjoy it or you can't. And you say representation is important.
It is, because I never had that when I was growing up.
No, I didn't. And I remember the mere mention of a gay couple on a TV show. I mean, I think when I was younger, the biggest uproar that came from anything like that was EastEnders.
Oh yeah, like a 1 second kiss, and it's like, oh god, everybody, all the kids are now gay.
Yeah, it was actually Michael Cashman, who's now a Lord in the House of Lords, or was. I think he's been thrown out or suspended from it over some comments that were made. But he was in EastEnders, and he played the first gay character in EastEnders, and there was a gay kiss, and it caused so much anger and outrage amongst the general population because how dare they show anything like that on TV?
A lot of them are probably closeted. It made them feel something that were uncomfortable with.
But then no one gets upset about a heterosexual couple on TV having a kiss.
That's all we've had, or even having more faces all the time.
Yeah.
Did you know Taste's dad was actually original bass player for Wham?
I did not know that.
It runs in the family. See this talent.
Absolutely. I did not know that. That's something. Well, every day's a school day.
Yeah. Plus, Taste is a street dancer, so they're good at dancing anyway. So you know what I mean. It makes sense to win a dance competition. Yeah, exactly.
The next two topics that we're going to be talking about on this episode are quite sensitive topics that could be quite triggering to any of you that may have experienced or gone through anything that we're going to be discussing. If they are, we are going to be putting some links to some support networks, support agencies that can give you guidance and support on these matters. We'll also be putting some numbers out there as well. So if you are affected by any of the content that we're going to be discussing over the next part of this podcast, please do reach out. Please do get support. The support is out there. The help is out there. And it's very important to help you. So, Joshua, conversion therapy, what is it?
Effectively, it is torturing somebody, in my opinion, to stop them from feeling attractions to the same sex. So that could be something like they could show you pornography of two men or two women or whatever you're attracted to, and electrocute you or give you nauseous drugs that will make you physically sick when you're watching it, to make you associate those feelings with pain or sickness. They do these things they call talk therapy, which is where they will try and change your mind and how to think, and they'll micromanage everything. So how you sit, how you stand, how you speak, how you walk, all these things they will teach you to change, because that is what makes you gay. It's how you sit or how you stand or how you walk and talk.
I think it's also important to sort of note there, because obviously, taking from what you just said, it's not about what the individual wants that's subject to the conversion therapy. It's what the other people want, isn't it? It's what the family want.
Well, sometimes they kind of do want it because they're made to feel like they shouldn't be gay, and their family only wants the best for them. That's what some of them do feel, that genuinely, especially if it's religion involved, because that's, you're brought up with that your entire life. It is a bit of a cult kind of mindset, and if you genuinely feel that you shouldn't be that and you should be straight with kids, with a wife or husband, you are going to want to do this therapy thinking that that's what you are supposed to be doing to be the right kind of person.
I mean, obviously the things that you described sound quite barbaric, don't they? I mean, torturing someone.
In this day and age, it just sounds like it couldn't possibly be true. Because I've mentioned it to my mom, and she said, they don't still do that. I went, yes, they do.
I mean, you talk of torture. I mean, torture is effectively one of the articles of the Human Rights Act. So if they're endorsing conversion therapy in the United Kingdom, then they're effectively breaching the Human Rights Act.
Well, the issue is they mask it in religion, which gives them all these little shields around them and loopholes. And a lot of the time, as I said, they belittle these people and brainwash them to think that they have to have it. So therefore, they're agreeing to do it. And if you're agreeing to do it, can you really call it torture if they're saying, yeah, I want to do that?
If you look at the Human Rights Act, I mean, Article 3 of the Human Rights Act is the right not to be tortured or treated in an inhuman or degrading way. Now, inhuman and degrading ways, they're very subjective, because it is all down to interpretation. But, if you are making someone feel unwell, or if you are electrifying someone because they are simply showing a natural desire, which it is natural to them. It is a natural desire, because otherwise it wouldn't be happening. That in my view is inhuman, and it's degrading as well, because it's done in such a way that everybody else knows what's going on. If my understanding of the practice is correct, everyone knows what's going on and what's going to be happening, and it goes from there.
I think the issue is religion, in my opinion, though, because if you look at all of these people who want the conversion therapy, or in America it is a lot more prevalent there. They have like full-on camps and all over the place. It's always religious preachers and camps where you get sent to, and you come back and you're going to be all normal as they want you to be, in quotations. But the problem is the vast majority of these kids, because that's what they are, they're kids that are getting sent to these camps, the vast majority don't even come home, because they will, unfortunately, unalive themselves, because it's so severe and cruel of how they are to them there. They cannot handle it, and they don't see any other way, because a lot of the time it doesn't work. It's not working, because you can't change what you're attracted to. And when it's not working, they're going to think, oh, it must be me, it's not going to work, what else can I do? And then that's the only way out.
But again, that's potentially where the brainwashing comes in as well, isn't it? Where they're brainwashed to believe that they should be a certain way, and when
the
they can't be a
permanent
certain way.
permanent damage that causes to people, not just it's physical harm and mental harm. That's lifelong damage that they're going to have to work on to unravel to get over that, which you probably never will, because the things they do, I can't even imagine.
Conversion therapy obviously is one of those subjects that's very emotive. It's very powerful to talk about it, especially when you look into it and look into the nature of what actually goes on, what actually takes place during these so-called conversion practices. And when was it the government announced it was going to be banned?
I think it was 2018, and every single government, although I didn't really have any expectations from the Tory government to do anything, in my opinion, which I was correct. They didn't do anything. That's just fallen on deaf ears every single time through all 20 prime ministers they had, or how many that was. Then Labour have got in. They said they were going to do it. I think it was in the King's Speech, but still, again, it's still
there's a lot of dilly-dallying around it, isn't there? There's a lot of indecisiveness. It just needs to be banned. It's an abhorrent practice. It's cruel. It's torture. It needs to end because it's so damaging and so harmful to anyone that gets subjected to it.
And the ban needs to include trans people.
Absolutely.
Because I have seen a lot of people talking about the ban going through and only being LGBT and not trans people, because they want trans people to have access to these talking therapies, which that's conversion therapy. You're calling it talking therapy, it's conversion therapy.
Here's some food for thought. Here's some food for thought for you. Now, think about how homophobes, and I use that term accurately, homophobes believe that any kind of LGBTQ plus education is trying to convert their kids to be gay or convert their kids to be transgender.
Or it's pedophilia. They love throwing that out there.
But look at it from that point of view. And yet those very people would be the sort of people that would happily endorse LGBTQ plus conversion therapy.
If you sat them in a room, made them watch someone going through that, they'd change their mind. I don't think they genuinely understand how serious it is. It's not just sitting in the chair with a doctor and he has a little chat with you and then you come out straight.
I think they think it's mental, don't they? They think it's a mental disorder.
They think you talk to a therapist for a few weeks and then you come out fine.
Even though it was proven many, many years ago that it's not a mental disorder, that it's all biological, it's all natural, but yet they still have it in their heads that it's all mentally related, that you can literally just convert people when it's nowhere near as straightforward or as simple or even as logical as that. But anyway, we're talking on this subject, and obviously, I'll hold my hands up. We haven't had any first-hand experience ourselves of this practice, but we are very fortunate that one of our very lovely listeners, Ben, has come forward to us. He's reached out to us, being aware that we were going to be covering a topic like this, and he has wanted to share with us and everyone else his experience of conversion therapy, because he has gone through this himself. Now, he has recorded for us a little segment that's about 5 or 7 minutes long, and we're going to play it to you in full. It's going to be completely unedited. We're not going to be shortening it down because he wants to get across and share his experience. And I think we think it's very important that message is shared and you get the opportunity to listen to it. So we're going to play that to you now, and then we're going to talk about it with you afterwards.
So where to start? I'm Ben, and I'm a survivor of conversion therapy, though I'm really not a fan of the term, as it's far from any kind of therapy. So I was raised in a high control religion known as Jehovah's Witnesses, a religion where, among many things, being my true self was forbidden. And having a dad who was an elder, which is basically the authority figures in the congregation, I knew that this would put his position in jeopardy, which made this worse, as I had been brought up in an environment where I didn't really know about gay people, not even from school, thanks in part to Section 28. So I did see myself as, well, I hate the term, especially in this context, but broken. Long story short, at the age of around 21, I got forced out by my then best friend, which led to very uncomfortable conversations with my parents around their views of gay people, using very dated stereotypes that I won't go into here, but they left very deep pain and feelings of rejection. At the time, I was told there were two options moving forwards. I would either agree to having a study with another elder so that I could see the errors of my ways. This was sealed with the knowledge that if I did not take part in this study, then option 2 was that I would no longer be welcome under their roof, my home. The organisation strongly disagree with having friends outside of what they call the truth. And so due to the lack of anywhere to turn and the lack of the amazing tools we have now at our fingertips, I had no option except to go ahead with the study. To start with, it was very standard, like any regular study, only this one being with an elder. Along with this was limited freedom outside my home, unless with another trusted member of the organisation, and they were to accompany me, as I was no longer one to be trusted. This intensified over the space of 9 to 10 months. It evolved from simply meeting up and praying for strength for me to overcome my affliction. It began to include such things as how my hair looked, shorter, not dyeing it, removing vibrant colours from my wardrobe, jewellery. There were all sorts of requirements added along the way. This was all in some kind of effort to make me more normal, more manly, and so straight. Naturally, this had no real effect in making me straight, though as my mood began to sink, I think they saw the vibrance and life leaving my eyes as it working. It was always said off the cuff that if I'm not attracted to women, then maybe the best thing was to be celibate, aka alone. It is worth noting that a lot of the therapy relied on my cooperation, and due to coercion based on the fear of me losing my home and family, I was made to feel this was my only option. So one of the worst practices I had to endure is known as aversion therapy. This is where, for example, a bitter taste is introduced to make you feel sick. So I had this vile tasting thing, I think it was bitter aloes, or I can't remember what it was. And if I had an impulse or impure thoughts, I was to put it on my tongue. This got to the point where I felt sick even thinking of sex for a long time, and it does still affect me to this day. It was also suggested that I watch lesbians, as having a man in the porn would be a distraction, and to eat sweets because then it would make me be a bit more linked to it. That was very rough overview there, but it is one of the things that still haunts me even today. So I do find it a little bit tough to talk about that bit. It all came to a head one night. I realised that it wasn't working. Everyone saw me as an abomination and a monster, and so I decided I just simply couldn't go on anymore. And that night, I almost didn't make it. If it wasn't for a friend I had made on a gay site, think it was Lads or something like that, and had spoke to a lot about my issues with them, and so they turned up in my hour of need, as otherwise I likely wouldn't be here today. I told my parents my decision to not continue to study with the elder, even after explaining how it was destroying me and how I was feeling and how it was just not working. I was instantly told that I was no longer welcome in my family home and that I had to leave. I then had no real home. I was considered homeless or no fixed abode for around 3 years. having not really been able to have friends outside the religion, and we had recently moved about 400 miles from my hometown, I was very lost and landed up making mistakes and being in some really rough spots in an effort to try and just survive. I also met some of the most beautiful people along the way who kept me going, one being quite famous drag queen who gave me a hug and said, "It gets better." And it really did. To say this has impacted my mental health would be an understatement. I've been diagnosed with complex PTSD, and a large portion of that is due to the conversion therapy. 15 years on, and I still struggle with a lot of the effects caused during the process, and regularly have to battle with negative self-image, trust issues, stress around people and authority, and obviously my sexuality. I'm currently undergoing a quite intense therapy known as EMDR, which is helping me process the trauma so I can finally put the past to rest and move on with my life. Thanks again, guys, for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's so hard watching the debates on it all over the news. Having gone through it, I hate that people are still being tortured this way in 2024. Hopefully we'll see something positive soon. All right. Bye, guys.
Just wow to that. I'm almost lost for words.
Same.
I mean, first of all, thank you, Ben, for sharing your experience with us. It's a very powerful thing that you've shared with us, and I think it just goes to highlight the truths and the reality of what actually goes on through someone's lived experience. And that's why it's so important to listen to the people that this impacts and that it affects. Let them have their voice, let them express what they've experienced, what they've gone through, what they've had to endure. I mean, talking about the different methods that they took with Ben, and how that's left him, 15 years on, he said, and he's been diagnosed with PTSD. As a result, he's going through intensive therapy to try and get himself back to living a good life, and trying to put the past behind, trying to put the experience behind him. And I'll tell you what really, really hit me was when he said he nearly didn't make it, and there was a friend in his hour of need that he was able to call upon and get that support at that point of time that he needed it.
This is why your chosen family are so important, because they will be there for you. They'll see you through the good and the bad. They don't just want to see the good. And the bit that hit me is the same as you. That bit is hit me a lot, but where he met a drag queen and they said it gets better. This is why having drag queens and representation is so important, because that one line, you don't know how much that one line could mean to somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the whole thing around it gets better, and as you say, representation. It's that similarity. It's that familiarity, something you can liken yourself to, and having those people around you that know what it's like, have lived the experiences, have gone through what other people are going through, and can give that genuine support. And again, it's why education's so important.
Yeah, but the techniques, well, we'll call them techniques, that they use, they are just so ill-advised, and they just make no sense. Like, watch lesbian porn and have candy, and that's apparently going to make your brain change. It's things like that. They just don't. It doesn't make any sense.
None whatsoever.
No matter how hard even if I tried to understand that side, that just makes no sense.
No.
It's just ridiculous.
It doesn't make any sense at all.
The damage that it's caused to thousands of people, and Ben, lifelong damage.
Yeah.
Just because you can't accept your own child for who they are. And I cannot even imagine, if I had children, if they told me who they are, I cannot imagine casting them away and saying, I don't want you in my life.
You'd want to support them, wouldn't you? You'd want to be there for them. You'd want to make sure that whatever their choice is, that they were happy, that they feel supported. But to cast your own children away because they don't fit to what you want them to be is just totally wrong. And
I can guarantee that the lives of these families are a lot darker and negative now they have done that than what it would have been if they just accepted their children to be who they are. They would have such a better relationship and life and family if you were just accepting of your own children. You're literally your flesh and blood, and you've just cast them away just because they happened to like the same sex.
I think it's fair to say, Ben's experience is not unique. Ben's experience is by no means unique. There are going to be hundreds, if not thousands, out there across the world that will either be going through those experiences or have gone through those experiences that are trying to get on with their lives and try and be their true, authentic selves.
And I'm just so glad that in Ben's case, he's got a loving partner. He's got his own little family, and he's surrounded with the love that he should have had from the very start.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's such an emotive subject that if any of you listening have been affected by this or have been through what Ben has been through, and you feel you want to reach out, feel free to reach out to us. But we are going to be putting some helpline numbers and some websites where you can get some help and support should you be going through this or anything similar that may affect you. We're going to move on now to a new segment that we're going to introduce. It's going to be in all future episodes, and it's a little segment to try and break up the episodes, and we've called it the Complaints Closet. Now, it's called that because we're going to be talking about things that annoy us, wind us up, and we're going to be asking you, dear listeners, to contribute as well. Provide things to us of things that annoy you and why they annoy you, why they frustrate you. It's going to be a little segment that we're going to have that we're going to try and keep it light-hearted, keep it amusing, and something to try and make you laugh if we can. We might not always succeed, but you never know. So, Josh, this episode, what annoys you?
A lot, everything. As you know, my personality, I moan about everything. It's just how I am. Although, lately, since is it still winter?
It is still winter at the moment, yeah.
Still winter, although it happens all the time. It's people that cough near me.
Because cough near you?
I'm a germaphobe.
Ah.
And they're everywhere.
Does that mean you hate Germans?
No. People just will look at you and then just cough in your face, or they'll be walking past you and just cough. They don't cover their mouths or anything, or they will cover their mouths and cough in their hands, and then they start touching things. And I think those kind of people should be barred from all supermarkets. They shouldn't be allowed in there.
Maybe they should just be barred from everywhere.
Yeah, all public spaces, if you cough, you don't do it into a tissue or something, right, you're barred. If they cough and they don't have hand sanitizer or anything, they should be banned and they should be kicked out of all public places.
Cough off.
Yeah, same as people who sneeze near me. I had to catch a bus lately, and someone kept coughing right next to me, and they weren't covering their hands. And then a few
Why'd
days.
you sit next to them then?
Because once you've sat on the bus, you can't get up. You see how quick bus drivers drive? If I try and stand up, I'm ending up on the floor. But yeah, they cough next to me, and then within a few days later, I'm ill because they decided to come out when they're all diseased and then spread it.
Lovely.
Yeah, plague people, that's what they are.
So is that the main thing, one of the main things?
Yeah, I can moan, and then I'll go on and on and on for ages about it. I have plenty more, but I'll let you have a go.
Oh, thanks.
What annoys you then, Nigel?
What annoys me? One thing that really annoys me. Dribble piss.
Beg your pardon? dribble piss.
Dribble piss.
That is not what I thought you were going to say.
You know when you go to the toilet, right? You go, you finish what you're doing, give it a little shake. You think, right, that's it, it's all done. Give it a little wipe. Yep, fine. Pull your pants up, dribble piss. Nice little patch of piss on your pants. Hate it. Absolutely hate it.
The joys of having a penis.
I just hate it. It annoys me. It's like I can go and I think, yep, I'm all good. I'm all clean. I'm all dry. Yeah, I could be in my PJs and then suddenly you feel, oh, for pissing hell's sake, dribble piss.
Oh, have I wet myself again, or have I just dribbled?
It just feels like it, and I can't stand it. You know, anyone out there listening to this doesn't have a penis, fine. You know, happy days. I don't know if you get the same, but no, I hate it. Absolutely hate it. Dribble piss really annoys me.
Maybe you need a little pad or something.
I don't need a pad. I'm not old. I'm not that old that I need tenor men. Thank you very much.
Just go Audi. They're half price. Right. Even though I've got a really long list, we're only doing 2.
Yes, we're only doing 2 each. We're going to do 2 each segment.
I will go on for too long. Another one I'm going to pick that I experienced today is people who decide to have conversations in the middle of an aisle or the middle of a path. I haven't got time to ask you to move out of the way because I don't want to talk to you anyway.
It's just lack of spatial awareness, isn't it?
Well, it's like the thinnest little aisle ever, and they will just decide that they want to have a lovely conversation with each other, and rather than get out of my way and stand over there in the corner somewhere, they will stand in a doorway and just have a full-on chat, or they'll stand in the middle of the aisle, both with trolleys, and they'll have both the trolleys at the side of them. So they've created this great wall in the middle of the aisle. And then when you ask them to get out of the way, they look at you like you're the most evil person in the world.
The funny thing is, I know, because obviously I was with you when that happened, and I know what it is you're referring to and where we were when that happened. And I noticed that particular store we were in, they'd actually widened the aisle. They'd actually moved some of the shelving a bit further over. So the aisle we were going at was actually wider. But they still managed to stand right in the middle, side by side, having a conversation, completely unaware that there were us and some others behind that were waiting to move on and get past.
This also happened to me on a bus again. See, this is the problem with buses. I don't use them that often, but every time I do...
What, people were shopping on a bus?
They annoy me. No, it's always old people as well.
Ageist.
It's probably because they don't have much time in the world to just move over out of the way, but the bus stops, last stop, so there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
And they're at the front of the bus, and they get up and they start chatting in the middle of the bus aisle. Why? Get off the bus. So I say, I haven't got all day. Can you hurry up and get off the bus? Because I'm already annoyed with the person coughing at me. And I'm trapped with the person coughing because there's 2 old people having a little chat in the middle of the bloody aisle. And then they start moving, and then what do they do then? They stop at the door to talk to the driver. Why?
To annoy you. That's what it is. It's to annoy you.
Yeah, but the driver...
Because you've already explained, you've already pointed out to them your frustration with them. And I think, you know what, sod you.
Yeah, but the driver doesn't even want to talk to them. Just get off the bus.
No wonder your buses always run late.
I know, they are always late, and this is why. It's because old people block the aisles and no one else can get on, no one else can get off. It's false imprisonment. because I'm trapped on this bus with this sneezy coffee person next to me because these old people won't let me off. If you cough one more time. And it's exactly the same as people who decide to link arms and hold hands and barricade the entire path so I can't get round you.
You finished?
Sure. I'll keep going on about people irritating me, but yeah, just do your last one. What is it?
You could probably just compile your list into just people.
Most of mine is just people just irritate me.
My second one for today's complaints closet is about people. It is people, but it's not people in general. It's people who don't indicate when driving.
I've heard you swear at many people in the car.
I'm a perfectly polite driver, thank you very much. I do not swear at other drivers. Anyway, people don't indicate when driving. So you come out to a roundabout, all right? You do what you should do. You get up to the roundabout, you give way, you stop, you wait. You see what the other driver's doing, you look for indication and stuff like that. And they come round the roundabout, but they don't indicate. Or you're coming up to a junction or something and you're waiting for someone to turn out or something, and they're just not indicating, and you've been waiting for them, and it's like they're not going the way you think they're going. You're being polite and doing stuff like that, and and it's not exclusive to just BMW drivers. Sorry if you're a BMW driver, people. It's Audis as well, yeah, and Mercedes. I've seen it with Mercedes.
What did happen today? They indicate, so you're like, okay, I'll wait, and then they go the opposite direction.
That's right. There was that bloke that was driving. He indicated right at the roundabout if he was going as if he was going around the roundabout.
And then he went left.
But then went left. I mean, does he know his left and right?
If he doesn't, he shouldn't be driving.
True. Reminds me if he doesn't know where he's going and doesn't know how to drive properly. But yeah, it's just frustrating, and I can see how some people would get road rage out of things like that. And you will get some that will take it to the extreme and start shouting and swearing and fingers, this, that, and the other. But when you do indicate, you still get people that pull out on you. I mean, there was that woman that pulled out on me on that very roundabout that I was referring to.
The dreaded roundabouts.
And I nearly had a collision with her, and I had to sound the horn to alert her to my presence. And all she did was stick her hand out the window and stick two fingers up at me.
Even though they're in the wrong. Half the time they're on the phone and all.
Well, there was that van driver today,
wasn't there? Should we add a joint third and say people who use their phones while they're driving?
No. Well, yeah.
It's a link. We saw them today.
Yeah, he was on his phone. He was driving a van. He was on his phone.
And he was chatting to people in the car.
To the people in the car. So he was double distracted whilst driving.
Yeah, all of the rants.
We could go on forever, but we're not going to. We're not going to. So that's that for this week's complaints closet. So we're going to go on and move on to our next segment now. But if you have got any rants or any complaints or anything that annoys you, frustrates you, and you want to share it with us, just let us know on our socials. Drop us a message, and we'll pick it up. We'll give it a mention. But yeah. So we're going to move on to our next subject now, which is going to be talking about the puberty blocker ban. We're going to move on now to the puberty blocker ban. Now, the puberty blocker ban is something that's going to be coming in. It's going to be implemented, and it has been based upon a report known as the Cass report that was completed by Dr. Cass, and it's effectively saying that puberty blockers should be banned for all trans kids. Now, puberty blockers continue and can continue to be used for children that start puberty early. They can also be used in adults who have high levels of testosterone.
It can be used to reduce testosterone in adults who have prostate cancer, endometriosis.
Yeah.
And then you've got uterine fibroids, which is non-cancerous growths in the uterus. It can help with that in adults as well.
Yeah.
So there's many uses for them, but they're not really mentioned at all in
No.
the news and the media. It's just all focused on this subject because it gets views.
Yeah, and puberty blockers, they're intending on banning them for trans kids and solely for trans kids, but they can continue to be used in other circumstances. I think, like you and I have discussed, Josh, clinical trials.
Yeah.
Anyone that's already on them can still continue to use them. And this is something that is going to affect our trans siblings quite negatively. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and I think what people need to know is the amount of minors, trans minors, that are on puberty blockers in, I think, 2022, it was something like 0.003%, and only 1% of all trans minors are on puberty blockers. So it's less than 1%, so 0.003% of the entire minor population of the country are on them. And if you put the whole population that are trans kids, it's only not even 1% of them even are on them.
Yeah. Now, banning puberty blockers is going to be harmful. I don't think there's any question in that at all. And it's going to be harmful for our trans siblings. And it's going to mean that puberty is not going to be stopped, and there's potential irreversible damage for them when they grow up and go through puberty, which is going to affect them when transitioning later in life. And I think because Wes Streeting, the health secretary, he's adamant it's being pushed through. They're going to implement it. They're going to continue it.
Well, he's going full force with this report, even though it's been completely torn apart by medical fields that actually work with trans kids.
Yeah.
And they've said there are so many holes in this, and the doctors that she used for this report, most of them had no experience in it, or they were very biased against trans kids.
And I think this is the problem. There's a lot of bias behind it, isn't there? There's a lot of bias against trans people, against the trans community, and I think I just think that's awful. I mean, imagine being in such a position where you can make decisions on other people's lives when you yourself have, whether it be a conscious or unconscious bias against the people that it's going to affect.
Well, I don't know how they can say, oh, we're just thinking of the safety of children, when you're not. Because if you really felt you wanted these children to have safety, security, and be healthy, you would see that this is such an important treatment that they need, because puberty is hard enough as it is.
Because the body goes through a lot of change during puberty.
Yeah, and if you feel you are in the wrong body and then you are forced to go through puberty and have the changes in your body that does not match who you are, that must be, I cannot even imagine the torture that is on your mental health, because in the future that's going to be so much more severe, having, if they want to have surgeries and all these corrective treatments, gender affirming care, they're going to have to correct the things they were forced to go through, these changes that could have been prevented in the first place. Because if they go on the puberty blockers, all that's doing is holding off puberty, so the changes don't happen. If they want to come off them in future, they can, and then the puberty just starts.
And I think this is where part of the issue arises, isn't it? Because the argument is they don't know the long-term effects of puberty blockers on the human body.
Well, there's people that I've seen on social media, there's trans people that are in their 60s and 70s that have been on them for decades. clearly this is what we should be looking at. If they've been prescribing them for decades,
Yeah.
It's clearly there's not these severe risks you're thinking of, because we would have seen them.
You see, the point I was going to make on that was their argument is there's not enough evidence to say what the effects of puberty blockers will have long term on the human body. Now, if you flip that argument over onto the other side and say, well, hang on a minute, you're saying this when it relates to trans kids. What about all the others that can have puberty blockers and can be on long-term dosages of puberty blockers? Why are they allowed? And if you're saying we don't know the long-term effects, I think that just exposes the hypocrisy, and I think it exposes the bias as well.
But as I said earlier, with the percentages, rather than just use percentages, the number of kids that are having this treatment is like less than 400.
Yeah.
So that's like not even a school.
Yeah. And I think it's quite clear that this decision, and as you said, you know, there's a lot of holes in the Cass report. There's a lot of things that either don't make sense or aren't supported evidentially. And I think that just goes to highlight how discriminatory against the trans community this report is. And I think that's wrong. I don't think the trans community should be... I mean, the trans community are subject to so much targeting these days. It's so far out there in the mainstream that anybody and everybody that's got an opinion is having their say on it when they know sweet FA about it. The people that know all about it are the people it affects, the people it impacts on, and that is the trans community.
And they are never asked. They are never given the platforms to speak about them.
They're never included. They're just constantly berated. And it really, really breaks my heart seeing that happening to the trans community, because only 20, 30 years ago, we as the gay community were facing the same. And
unfortunately, we have people in the gay community that agree with this ban, and it's just...
And I fail to understand how they can do that, knowing what we as a community have been through in history and in the past. And I just think it's awful, because history's repeating itself, but this time it's the trans community that are the target, and we need to do so much more to show support to our trans community, to our trans siblings, because they deserve it. They do not deserve the hate, the vitriol, the abuse, the ridicule that they get. They just do not deserve it. They've done nothing to deserve it.
Yeah, and this government we've got now, Labour, has been a catastrophic disappointment to me as well.
Yeah.
I knew before they even got in, like I wrote that article about their transphobia, I knew they weren't going to be the change that we needed. I knew that, and I called it out before they even got in, and I'm still calling it out now on socials and things.
Yeah.
But there was a petition not long ago where they were calling for an independent review of this report. So it'd be a completely independent place where they would go over this report and then show their findings, what's true, what's not, what's biased, what isn't, and stuff like that. And the government, I think it was yesterday, have actually said, no, we're going to carry on with the recommendations in the report, and we will not be doing an independent review. We don't agree with one.
See, that's just beyond disappointing.
Why would you not want to do an independent review? So at least then you can say, like, it's not going to, but if it said, yeah, all the recommendations, it's true, it's not wrong, they can go, yeah, look, we did it. It's all great to do. The reason why they don't want to do it is because they know they've committed to this report so strongly, and that will show all the holes and all the falsities in it, because Wes Streeting is a gay man, which is even more disappointing.
He's not, is he?
And I think that he is basically a Tory, in my opinion. He's obsessed with this report. He's just
Red Tory.
Yeah, and he had this meeting with those 4 or 5 nurses, was it, that are like, they're just transphobic. They want to ban, they want to have single-sex wards and ban them from here and ban them from there, even though there's never been any charges or cases of trans people attacking anybody in a hospital ward.
I mean, this is the thing. You make a very good point there, and you touched on it briefly a few minutes ago when you highlighted the fact that trans people are not being included in these conversations. They're not being included in these meetings. They're not being included in these debates. Now, these debates, these meetings, these conversations are being had about the trans community. Now, who better to stand up and talk and give lived experience than trans people themselves?
Yeah,
they should be included. There should be a fair balance on both sides to have this debate.
Yeah, have an even number.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're going to have someone who's against it because that's just how you balance things out. But every single debate I see on every TV channel, it's always cis straight people. They're not even part of any of the community.
And half the time, it's mainly straight cis men.
Yeah, and it's always
that are included in
anti-trans people.
Yeah.
And that's it. But going back to Wes having this meeting with those nurses.
Yeah, sorry, we digress there.
He plastered all that all over socials. They was having photo shoots of them. It was in all the papers everywhere. But no one knows unless you actually look into things. He had a meeting with trans kids and their parents, several of them, quite a few of them. And he met these trans kids. Now, these trans kids allegedly spoke to him and said, this is how important these medications are for me. They are a lifeline. They let me be who I am, and I'm not in fear, and it doesn't make my body dysmorphia worse. There was no photos of them. There was no mention of it from him that he ever met them. Nothing. And then a few days after he met them, I believe, or a few weeks, he announced that he was fully doing the report. He was going through every single recommendation. That's actually meeting these trans kids and their parents, and they're telling you this will cause deaths. This is how important it is to me, this treatment. And he's basically gone, I don't care.
It's just dismissive. It's just totally dismissive. It's like he's made his mind up. It's his choice, it's his decision. Yep, no, I'm making that decision. No, I don't care. That's basically what he's saying.
And he keeps going on about, it's about with the nurses, it's about the safety of women. Please tell me then, how many trans people have been arrested and charged with assaulting people in hospital beds, assaulting people in bathrooms? Because I don't know about you, but when I go to the bathroom, I just want to go in there, pee or whatever, and then wash my hands and leave. I don't genuinely care. Most places they're all like, if you go to certain places like cafe chains, there's just one toilet for everybody. No one complains about that.
And it's a unisex toilet, isn't it?
If you go on a train, do they have single-sex toilets? No, it's just a toilet. So I don't understand this issue. When you're fear-mongering, you're going on, you're making out like these trans people are on every corner and they're in the cubicles waiting to get you. They don't care. They just want to pee.
This is the thing, and you make a good point there. It is fear-mongering, and that's what the anti-trans people rely on. They rely on doing all this fear-mongering and getting people riled up and angry. It's like putting a headline out there that you know is going to make people angry, and immediately people jump on it without actually reading the article.
It's always the same.
They read the headline before they read the article. I learned a long, long time ago, read the article. Yes, the headline might be quite captivating and make you angry and rile you up, but the article actually gives you a lot more information than the headline does. So read the article, don't read the headline. And that's what the fear-mongering does. The fear-mongering puts a suggestion out there. This is what's happening. This is what's going to happen. This is how dangerous these people are to women. No, actually look into it. Actually look at the facts. Actually look at, how many times has this kind of thing happened? Yes, you may get the odd one or two. You may do that. You may get that. You get that in every society.
Every group.
Now, and it's like you are always going to get that kind of offending, and there's going to be different perpetrators that are going to be from different backgrounds or different walks of life or whatever, different genders, different sexualities. You are going to get it. That is what happens in life. It shouldn't happen. It really shouldn't. People should feel safe. People should feel safe to just be themselves, go out and do their business every day, what they need to do, and come home and enjoy life. Sadly, there are people out there in this world that just want to go out and make people's lives a misery. They want to commit crime. They want to do something wrong. They want to do something that suits themselves, regardless of how other people feel.
You get a joy out of it.
But to target an entire community based upon the actions of maybe one or two is wrong. Is absolutely wrong. And that applies not just to trans people, but also to gay people, to people of different ethnic minorities, to people of different sexes, to people of different genders. You know, that will always be out there. But do not condemn an entire community for the actions of one or two people when you look on the grand scheme of things at the percentage of people that are out there in these demographics. Those that offend are themselves in a minority. And I think there's one thing I just want to make clear here, and I really do want to make it clear, that our podcast is a safe space for L, G, B, and TQ plus. If anyone listening to this is anti-TQ plus or doesn't want the TQ plus to be part of our wider community, then this podcast is not for you. You need to stop listening now, and you need to go and listen to something else that's going to brainwash you. Because one thing I will not stand for, one thing I will not tolerate, is our TQ plus community to be segregated, to be the subject of your ridicule, or to be the subject of your abuse. The trans community, the queer community, and plus everyone that falls within our bracket of our community is welcome and will always be welcome.
It's important to call it out.
Absolutely, 100%.
Don't stand at the side and watch.
No,
call it out.
Don't stand at the side and watch. Be that person that calls it out. Challenge it. Because there's nothing worse than if you are the victim, people are ridiculing you, and you see people that are there that are just ignoring it and letting it happen. And this isn't about policing people's thoughts. It's about making sure that we stand together, that we stand up for each other in this community. And I want to make it clear that everyone within our community that will be there for each other, that will be accepting of each other, will always be welcome. If you're going to hate on other members of the community because of who they are, and you're going to discriminate, then what the hell are you doing? Why are you doing it?
I don't think we'll ever understand that.
No, I don't think we will. But I wanted to say that at the end of this segment, because this is quite an emotive segment, and I want to make sure that any of our trans siblings that are listening to this, you are welcome, you are valued, you are meaningful. You have every single right to exist as much as anybody else does. And you should never feel like you do not belong, because you do.
That's all we've got time for this episode. I know it's been a long one, but we felt that they were such important subjects. We didn't want to rush them. We wanted to just take our time and say everything we needed to say.
Absolutely. It wouldn't be right to finish this episode, seeing as this is the first episode since this news broke. It wouldn't be right to finish without making a dedication in memory of the Vivian. The Vivian who was portrayed by James Lee Williams, sadly passed away a couple of weeks ago. We were incredibly shocked at the news, and we were also heartbroken at the news, and I think it's hit the community quite badly. So we just want to say that our thoughts go out to James's family, James's friends, and to anyone that's been impacted by these tragic events that have occurred. So rest in peace and rest in power, James. You will be sorely missed. Do you like to smell good?
Do you like using products that are cruelty and aluminium free?
Do you like using products that use natural ingredients?
Or how about you go wild?
Wild have a range of products that smell good, are cruelty and aluminium free, and use natural ingredients. They're also vegan.
Depending on what you like, their products range from lip balms, deodorants, soap bars for body and shampoo, body washes that I personally use for hand wash also, shampoos and conditioners. Between us, we've been using Wild products for a number of years now. We think they're great.
With compostable refills, Wild is eliminating single-use plastics. Even the body wash, shampoo and conditioner bottles look and feel like plastic, but they are 100% compostable. To get you started, we've partnered with Wild, so just go to wearewild.com and use the code TheGaily at the checkout for 20% off your first order or subscription. Or click on the link in the description. So what are you waiting for? Go wild today.